Hello everyone, welcome to day 2 of the YouTube screwage #reuse content. It's a pretty tough world out there right now and I've decided I'm going to double down and reuse content. I'm going to reuse so much content. My face is going to be reused so often in so many of my videos, it's going to be ridiculous. YouTube thought I was reusing content before. Oh buddy, wait till they see the future. It's going to be wild, man. It's going to be wild. Anyway, we're not here to talk about that. We're not here to talk about how YouTube's screwing over the channel and with reused content. #WatchMojo just reuse content. What about them, YouTube? Not going to talk about that, but here we are. My Hero Academia chapter 249. Let's talk about it. So for Hero Academia chapter 249, okay. I'm not at the edge of my seat, I'm not excited about it. I am, however, very interested about it. Very interesting what the author was doing in chapter 249. I don't have any prominent thought, to start the video off with. So instead, we're just going to go right into the walkthrough, and I'm going to tell you everything that I was feeling, page by page. We're going to use the manga stream translation because manga stream they were the ones that they translated the letter from Todoroki's mother. So that's why, at least at the time of this video, is why I'm picking manga stream over Gemini's box. I didn't notice any big translation differences though. So overall, it should be fine. So let's just begin. And also, guys, hope you're having a great day, man. Thanks for being here. I hope you keep having a great day. Anyway, first page. The first page is a setup page in terms of Endeavor's emotional state. It's giving us context to how the Endeavor is feeling, and it's reiterated. Like the first half reiterates some things. Actually, I'm reading it again. It's not reiterating anything, only in the first third. The first third reiterates, and the rest is a premising. They premise us about the dream. Now, this page is really valuable in conjunction with the final page, because what the author did here, and I'm realizing that the author is becoming more and more of a technical writer. He did a bookend. So the chapter starts up with Endeavor talking about a dream. If you look at that first page of the dream, you'll notice that it was Endeavor with his wife and children, and you'll notice Toya's not there. So when I saw that, I was like, well, it's a dream. Like, why isn't Toya there? Why wasn't he fitted into this? Because a dream doesn't have to keep up with that logic. So with that first page, the author popped it up in there. The author seeded the idea, and then when you looked at the final page, you saw that he answered it. He gave us an answer as to why the Toya wasn't in here at that particular given point in time. Now again, the answer for why Toya wasn't in that dream at first glance is probably just like, well, we know Toya's not around. We don't know what's happened to Toya. But that final page, gives more context. I do like what the author set up there, and I think when you look at the recent chapters, the author has been sometimes doing little bookends. Like for the previous chapter, the page started off with Fuyumi, and then it ended off with Fuyumi calling Endeavor. That's a bookend. So again, it's important to just point it out because the author is doing cool little things here that I think make the story very worthwhile. It's cool to have a question and then have a question kind of answered towards the end of the chapter. A question that was born in the chapter, answered within the chapter. I like that. That's cool. Anyway, we move into the second page, and the second page is also valuable because it's giving us world building, that Endeavor's agency has fully furnished residences. Wow, I was not expecting that, in all honesty. I guess that's just what happens when you're number one. Now, this page is pretty much setting up the scenery, setting up the background, giving you some context again. One thing that I really liked in all of this, aside from the characterization of Burning, because, she has a pretty strong moment here with her stretching and all that, is that when you got your first look at the kids, they looked like really banged up. Like they looked bad. Like I looked at Bakugo and Izuku, and it's like they had scuff marks everywhere. I thought they hadn't bathed in days. But as you went through the chapter, you would have seen that it seems like the scuff marks on their face, like it seems to be there to represent scratches, maybe bruises, just to say that they've been working hard. Now, mind you, that first panel of those kids on this page, you could have seen that they were really beat up. Like the author did a good job of he did such a good job of making their costumes look worn out. Like Bakugo's costume looks so banged up. I liked how he did it. They looked like they've been out in the field for a long time. And as I was watching that, I was like, it's really interesting that these guys don't have a policy about keeping your uniform clean. Like I would have thought Endeavor, given how everyone else looks, I would have thought Endeavor was like, yo, guys, make sure you guys look good when you're going to the job. Because he feels like that kind of professional guy. I mean, Endeavor looks clean at all times. These kids, they don't. So it was interesting. I was wondering if they were going to have a uniform policy. Anyway, that page, you would have noticed it. But then you go to page 4, and the bottom of page 4, Burning did note she had that special, like, well, through her, we got to see a close-up of the damage. So this was a really cool thing between page 3 and page 4, because, you know, if you were Eagle Eye, you would have noticed that there was something weird about the kids' character design. Page 4 confirms what was weird, that is that they were just banged up and they're actually putting in a lot of hard work. Now, page 4 also still has a lot of really good information with Todoroki. He's talking and giving us context like, okay guys, we are getting better. There is actual progression that can be witnessed from the perspective of the characters. That's great. And then Todoroki, he had a moment with Bakugo where he just reminds us how earnest the guy is. And he's telling us that he still has a problem emitting flames from a single point. I really love that the author really stuck with this. I love that this is how he's pushing forward Todoroki into control or controlled emission. Like, again, like I pointed out, I think in the last video, Todoroki, he's a burst type character. He doesn't have proper molding ability. So I really love that this is how the author is improving him, because, you know, when people ask me, what would a quirk between Todoroki and Momo, if they had a kid, what would it look like? And really for me, it's ice bending. It's pretty much that kid would have a quirk that lets them mold ice better. Like, and I think also Momo's quirk probably produces material at body temperature. So I think a neat thing with the hybrid quirk between the two of them would be if the new quirk could produce things at sub-zero temperatures as well. That'd be very interesting, because there are some things that Momo just can't produce by the virtue of temperature, like ice. Momo can't produce ice, at least not from what we've seen. There's no reason to think that she can produce something at 0 degrees. Everything she has produced, I would assume, has all been body temperature, but who knows? The author could break it. Anyway, I got sidetracked. We move on into page 5. Page 5 is a transition page with Burning setting up that they are putting in a lot of effort, that they are self-motivated. Then we have a, I guess, just like reminding people of the context that a week has passed as they were working with Endeavor. Really interesting how they did that, because you already kind of understood how much time had passed, I believe. Because I think the last page ended off with like a week later or something like that. Maybe I'm wrong, but any hoosers, that page is just giving us context on where exactly they are when it comes to Endeavor. And then by the time we move into page 6, they are again in a similar scene, trying to keep up with Endeavor while Endeavor is thinking about other things. Now, what I thought was interesting in page 6, firstly, how terrible is the My Hero Academia world such that these guys have stuff to do every single day? Like, because remember, it's not just heroes out there patrolling the streets. There's also a police force. How, and like this guy, why are people so stupid as to go terrorizing Endeavor's territory? How saturated is villainy? That's really the big question. Every time I see these people actually having something to do, I get really worried about the general state of the Hero Academia universe. Like, how much of a criminal population does the Hero Academia universe have? All right, that's my next big question. What are the demographics in the Hero Academia universe? It's scary that they have so much to do every single day. My God. But there is something else important aside from that little rant. It's that as Endeavor was helping the guy and returning the briefcase, which is also really interesting that they're talking about carrying cash lately, I see. Very interesting. Anyway, as he's talking about that, he's also thinking about his family. So what I took that to mean, how I interpreted that, is that even when he's being an effective hero, he is still caught up in his own thing. So it really brings a whole new meaning to parallel processing, because he's parallel processing his own little problems while also being effective. That's kind of a different level of competence there. But yeah, I like that. I liked that little sidebar that Endeavor had on that page. And I really liked what the author was setting up with Endeavor and Fuyumi. As you remember last time in the previous chapter, I noted to you guys, what kind of character Fuyumi is. She is the character that wants to bring the family together. And it's just interesting because this chapter shows all the negative consequences of Fuyumi's characteristics. And that's great. It's great. And it's also really interesting to see how Endeavor interprets Fuyumi. Man, that was cool. That was really cool on the author. I really appreciated it. And man, the lines where Endeavor is just going there and where he's thinking to himself, I just connected with them as heroes and now you want me to bring them home, and the butt. I like the hesitance. I like that vulnerability. And I like that he's thinking about his daughter wanting to be a family. And then we go into page 7. And I think the line that really made it for me is like, Fuyumi, how many times you've saved me? Man, listen. I told you guys Fuyumi was going to have some kind of force given the way that the author was setting her up. Everything that Endeavor is saying about Fuyumi, no matter how you look at it, that's narrative buildup. This girl is going to be pivotal to whatever is going to occur. Is it going to occur in this chapter? I don't know, but she has a lot of the emotional pivot being assigned to her. This is a pretty rough time. Like, eventually, we're going to be in a point where Endeavor's going to be acting for Fuyumi's sake. Or maybe there's going to be something about, for Fuyumi, therefore I will do this, this, or this. Because, again, she's being brought up a lot. And given where we end the chapter off, it's still too wide. I can't really see where we could go, but I do see that the author is really emphasizing Fuyumi's role in all of this. Anyway, we move forward. And we're at the Endeavor household. And then page 8 is hilarious and also so precious. So first off, the first half of page 8, I love that Bakugo is questioning it. I love that Bakugo is telling Todoroki to go tell people they are not friends. I love that Bakugo has nothing that he wants to do with this. And then when you see what Bakugo was talking about later, that might have informed his opinion here. Really interesting. And then you have the picture of Fuyumi and in the apron. And for a split second, just a split second, I thought I understood why people have waifus. Just for a split second. But not too long though, because I'm not about that kind of life, alright? But no, that looked precious. The author did a really good job of exemplifying the innocence of his sister. Or sorry, not his sister, of Shoto's sister. That was really cool. I think that is my favorite panel in the chapter, definitely. It looks precious, man. Anyway, the rest of the page is just premising, it's just setting up who's going to be at the dinner. We go into page 9, and page 9, let me check time. We're 13 minutes in. Oof, tried to go fast. Page 9, okay. The first thing that I really want to point out in page 9, why is there a rock in the living room? That's a rock. Why is that there? What is this? What are we doing? Anyway, weird interior design choices aside, we move on. And everyone's just eating food. And then we get a little detail about the maid. Ever since the maid hurt her back and retired, Fuyumi has been doing all the cooking. This came up as response to Fuyumi being an excellent cook. Keep the maid in mind because I'm going to mention something at the end of the video about this because that was a weird detail. I know that I think in drama, when it comes to stage plays and all that, I think there is a rule that anything that is introduced into a play in the first act must come back in the third act. Conservation of detail. And so that maid, that's I'm kind of questioning her inclusion. It may be just a world building detail, but that was a weird detail to put in there. So we'll continue on. We then have the beginning of the family drama when Shoto questions if he's eaten good old Natsu's food before, and then we go into Endeavor may not have allowed it. And then we go into that scene where everyone notices the bad atmosphere, and it's just not a great situation. And then the author was making this a very awkward thing with having Fuyumi trying to diffuse it and then Endeavor trying to apologize and then just kind of fizzling out. Wow, that was awkward. And then Natsu getting up to leave and go. Yeah, that was definitely a thing. So by that point, we're on page 11. Everyone feels bad. Things suck. That was a dialogueless page just to tell you what everyone was doing. Nothing really of value on page 11 beyond that point. Then we get page 12 where Izuku is effectively told that Bakugo was listening in. This was important just to set up where Bakugo's perspective was on this. And I think this line also kind of reminds readers that, oh yeah, Bakugo was listening in on that conversation when him and Todoroki had it. Any Hoosers, we continue down that We continue down that page, and we have that conversation between Fuyumi and Shoto, and this is where the interesting parts start, because now we are dealing with that really touchy subject, and I really like where we were going here. So from Fuyumi's dialogue in this page, we know that she is trying to seize every opportunity she can to get to a point where her family can be smiling. I really think that she is the one that said that by the time that the cherry blossoms bloom, she wants her family to be smiling. So then in that same page, we also have Shoto putting his foot down. He's, as far as he's concerned, Endeavor's the one who gave him the burn. And then, you know, if the author left it at that, I would have had more to talk about. But thankfully, the author went on and he continued showing us more of the flashback and the scene. And then he gave a good enough reason for Shoto there, saying that his mom endured for years and it boiled over. I can't forgive him that easily after what he did to her. And then from there, we see the mother's letter. Now, before going into the mother, just going back to Shoto for a second here. This is a really interesting case because as readers, we already know that the mother is already at a point where she is trying to find the positive sides in Endeavor, right? We know the mother has said that Endeavor has never once let go of his family. Mind you, I really believe that was because this is my personal opinion, but I feel that the author thinks he might have gone too far with Endeavor, and so he started trying to dial it back, but he made the villain too good. He made the villainous aspect of Endeavor too good. So now you have the mother in a place where she's going down that rhetoric of forgiving Endeavor and all of that kind of stuff. When Shoto is saying that he assigns all the blame to Endeavor, it's what I question is, well, does the mother assign the blame to Endeavor? Because, well, I am not a psychologist, so take my opinion with a grain of salt. But I feel like a part of her rehabilitation would have included understanding what brought her to the point that she was at. So what I ultimately question is, if the mother had an opinion in regards to what Shoto just said, would the mother have, would she have tried to take some of the blame too, or be responsible for some of the blame? Would she have approached it from the situation of, I understand what he did to me, I understand how that made me feel, but I was still the one that dumped it on you? You know, would she go down that particular line of route? Would she own up to her actions while also understanding that not all the blame was on her? Because this is a pretty interesting situation of how are the characters assigning blame? And because we don't know how the mother was rehabilitated, we don't know what kind of perspective any kind of trauma psychologist might have taken with her. In this case, I do feel that the mother may have accepted some of what she became, but she understood, if I was to think about a healthy mind, she may have understood that it wasn't entirely her fault. It'll be really interesting. The reason that this becomes interesting is because we know that the author put the mother on the forgiveness route. That's why it's interesting, because now it's going to be an issue of, well, how does the mother compartmentalize and how does she conceptualize the problems that occurred in her family? Now, the reason I stopped halfway in the page is because, well, we might have an answer in the letter. And I forgot the letter, so I have to reread it again. So I'll just read it over in case you guys were just reading another translation. Have you been well? It's getting colder by the day, so I've been worried that you might catch a cold out there. I've been doing well recently, so they're allowing me out more often. If I can keep this up, the doctor says he'll be able to discharge me soon. I really want to live together with you, Natsu, and Fuyumi again. I'm going to keep trying my hardest to get better so that incident like before will never happen again since the beginning of the year. Okay, so right there, you have a lot of information. That one little blob gives you a lot of information. First off, she doesn't include Endeavor in any of this, right? So that indicates, you know, there's still some touchy feelings in there. But I'm going to keep trying my hardest to get better so that an incident like that will never happen again. She's taken blame. Well, not taking blame, she's taking responsibility. She understands, most likely, what led her to deteriorate to the way she did, and most likely her rehabilitation included ways to strengthen her mind so that she doesn't deteriorate the same way she did. She understands that, she's experienced that deterioration. That's on her, right? It's on her to make sure it doesn't happen again. That's not the mentality of someone who would throw all the blame on just Endeavor. That's the mentality of someone who understands that she needs to deal with particular kinds of stress in a certain way. And from the way that she's excluding Endeavor, she may be trying to do her best to maybe not live in the same household as Endeavor. That was a very interesting dialogue, and I do think it speaks very loudly. And it's the best clue we have into her mindset. Now, again, this is a situation where we have to see, what does the author want to do with the characters. If the author is going full tragedy route, I think potentially having that mom be slightly apologetic towards Endeavor as she has been in the past, that might emphasize it. We know that the author used the mother's words in the past to emphasize Endeavor trying to survive against the high end. The mother has already been used as a framing device for Endeavor. This is a really interesting situation. I am very interested to see where this goes. The more we add more of the Todoroki family hopes and dreams into this arc, the more that we can say, like, if Dabi comes in and smacks Endeavor down, that's going to be pretty brutal for everyone involved. Especially when we go into the next page, where Bakugo reminds everyone, if you're going to invite the guests, don't show us your family drama. Okay, so now here's what I want to ask you. We're in touchy territory, guys. What do you feel about what Bakugo says? What are your opinions? Because the first thing I would say, like, well, maybe in cold... it's a tough situation. From the perspective of the individual that is Bakugo, I'll be like, you guys shouldn't be showing us this. And given that I think Japan, yeah, they have like the save face culture, probably by their cultural standards, this was not a good move. But honestly, me looking into it, that's an awkward situation, right? No one wants to be in the middle of family drama. No one wants to like just see people sniping at each other across the table. Like, it's uncomfortable. Very interesting perspective. I want to get all your perspectives, because depending on how old or young you are, you might have a different opinion on this. But one thing I will say here is that I think this is just showing the problems or the consequences of Fuyumi's actions. Fuyumi, we know she wants to get to the end where everyone is happy. We know this. This is her character. And in the process, she's overlooking the fresh wounds. So you can't blame Natsu for reacting the way he did. Fuyumi is the one that just threw this all on them all of a sudden. No one had any time to process or compartmentalize any of this. This was a tough situation for everyone involved. This is just the consequence of what happens when you want to get to the end, but you're not looking at the journey to get to the end. So that's what's coming out here. This is a pretty difficult situation. It's cool that Bakugo is saying what's on everyone's mind, but there's a lot of victims in the situation. There's a lot of problems going on here. The best way to have avoided this probably would have been to not have people over for dinner. But again, we know Fuyumi's character. This is a consequence directly coming out of the character flaw within her. And I think the author did a good enough job here. I'm very interested to know your opinions about that, though. Do you think it's fine to show that drama? Or do you think Bakugo has a point? Do you think it's better to hide the drama? Or do you think they should have been doing this in the first place? They should have been waiting till they were more emotionally stable. Let me know down below. We move on. And in the bottom half, Bakugo's still... he's still complaining about how the tofu's ruined because... Look, man, when I read the dialogue, when I heard we were invited for dinner, I expected a pleasant, normal evening. I didn't think he was such a traditional guy. That was great, man. What do you mean that wasn't great? That was great. But then we have Izuku in that final bit. And you see Izuku's frames there. And I'm just thinking, oh my god, Izuku. Oh my god, are you about to do something? And, we'll just go into page 15, but like when Izuku tells Todoroki that he's getting ready to forgive his father, all I'm thinking is like, oh my god, Izuku, thank God for your existence again. Oh my goodness, Izuku. If he didn't tell us this, we would not have known that Todoroki was getting ready to forgive his father. If Izuku did not butt in there and get involved in everyone's family drama, we would not have known. Because even Todoroki did not know what his subconscious wanted to do. Man, bless you, Izuku, because you're giving us so much information. And I just also find it funny that Todoroki is the one that told him that he has a habit of butting in. And he's butting in now into the worst situation so far. And yeah, I appreciate it. Man, look, man, I love ragging on Izuku. I love it. It's like a sport for me. I love making fun of the kid. He's very easy to bully. But I haven't been able to do that post-Gentle. Ever since the Gentle arc, Izuku has been like just shooting up. And he seems so much more competent. A lot of the problems I had with Izuku kind of faded away at the Gentle arc. Because that was the first time he felt like an actual symbol of peace. And I was just like, it hurts. I want to rag on Izuku, so I'm stuck with looking at pre-Gentle Izuku, but pre-Gentle Izuku isn't as cool as post-Gentle Izuku, and it's just like, man, how far we've come. Wow, great stuff, Izuku. But yeah, no, I cannot understate how important it was that Izuku said that, because as readers, we would not have known. And again, the moment that Izuku says that Todoroki is getting ready to forgive him, you gotta start thinking, what can that be building up to? And it could be building up to the situation where Endeavor is taken away from them, or they lose the chance to forgive him. That's where the tragedy is really like leading. If the author wants to go down the tragic route, we don't know. He's got enough material that when some event happens in the future, we can look back to the material and spot which ones were the ones that were building up and which ones weren't, which ones were red herrings. Anyway, Izuku goes on to just justify what kind of person Todoroki is, just what's going on, and then by page 15, page 16, we find out that everyone was listening in, even Endeavor. So Endeavor just heard that Shoto is looking for an opportunity to be able to apologize, or to forgive him. Shoto's waiting for that opportunity. So you can only imagine what's going on through Endeavor's mind. I think it was a really good move to have Endeavor overhear it. I think that was a really good move because it sets things up. And then on page 16, we have the last little bit where they wish that Toya was there as well. Now, this page is the page that things get a little bit crazy. Because now you got to ask, well, now we have the full confirmation. He died. They have a shrine in their house to commemorate him, to remember him, to come there and to pray and whatever. And we know what Endeavor wishes could be possible. Now, look, I don't have to explain to you how the tragedy works if Dabi ends up being Toya. I don't have to explain that to you. There's a lot of things that go wrong here, okay? Personally, I really hope that Dabi isn't Toya, because I don't want to have to see Fuyumi go through the realization that her little, or he was the oldest brother? Her brother is a murderer. Right? Dabi is beyond redemption at this point. Dabi needs to go to a mental hospital. He burns people in alleys, alright? This isn't a good person by any stretch of the imagination. But this raises a lot of questions. Given what his picture is, this implies that this kid died when he was really young. In other words, if it's Dabi's been on the streets by himself from when he was really young. What is going on here? What do we know? How does this fit into things? And there's also some other really weird things going on with this one picture of Toya. And let me show you what I mean. Because back when I did the Dabi Todoroki brother theory video, there was something that I spotted that was kind of weird. Let me just open it up on my... Excellent. So the only image I have is from one of my own videos. Anyway, what I want to point you to is, because we have to talk about it, the hair coloration. So this might have been an error on the anime's part, but it was always hard to kind of tell because the anime came out later and maybe the author needed to make a change, because in the original manga panels, this was not how he looked. In the original manga panels, he was white-haired. The anime has him being red-haired, and now here we are again with... an image of the character and he's white-haired. What is going on here? Because usually you know, there could be a change that happens from the anime to the manga. So at this point, the first thing I just wanted to very quickly go through is just that was the first thing that I thought of when I saw the kid with white hair. It's like, this isn't the kid in the panel. This isn't the kid in the anime. So I guess canonically he is supposed to be white haired, unless there's some kind of weird red hair thing going on somewhere else. Hard to say. It's a really weird situation. But yeah, just know that the original manga panels have him being white haired, and then the anime had him being red haired. It doesn't make sense on what's going on here or why these errors are here. But while we're on this page, what I wanted to point you to when it came to the old maid is that that maid is visible or in this shot in the anime and in the subs and in, of course, the manga as well. So what I'm thinking is there's a lot of weird things going on here. And like, I think we have to ask, like, okay, how did this guy pass away? If we want to play the Dobby game, how did he pass away? What was the actual accident? And then we have to ask, if he did become Dobby, how did that occur without anyone noticing? What kind of accident was this that they could pull that off? And so one of the last things I'm thinking of, and I don't have any kind of good path to tell you how I got here, is just because by the virtue that the maid is being referenced in this particular video, I'm just thinking, sorry, in this particular chapter, I'm thinking maybe the maid took Toya. Maybe there was an accident. Maybe it was a giant blaze. Maybe Toya was thought to be totally cremated within that giant blaze. Maybe the maid actually found him. Maybe the maid knew how bad of a situation it was at the household. And maybe the maid took him. Maybe just took him away and raised him herself. I don't know. There's a lot of weird things going on here, right? Because he's allowed to play with his siblings. Like, what exactly occurred here? If Toya is Dobby, I think that's going to be one of the big things that we're going to be looking forward to, given the amount of just pressure that is on the Todoroki family. We're going to see a flashback that explains to us what's going on with Toya, or how did he die. It's gonna, like, right now I'm looking at this from the author perspective, and it's like, what are you trying to do? You must know that people think Toya is Dobby. You must know. He must be aware of it. So is he trying to throw people off? Is he going to try and give us a really convincing flashback that makes us think, okay, yeah, no, this guy is definitely in the ground, and then come out with that last little bit of a plot twist that says, oh, wait, no. She, like, the maid planned it all? I don't know. But it's really interesting. That final page was really interesting in terms of just the existence of Toya. Are we going to get a flashback next week? That's the next big question. I don't know. Anyway, those are all my thoughts for the chapter. I think this chapter builds stuff up, and I think the movements within the chapter are really interesting. I am interested in seeing where all of this ends when it comes to the Todoroki family. Personally, I don't want Endeavor to die. I don't want any of these people to lose the opportunity to forgive, or for Endeavor to apologize properly, or for amends to be made. I don't want that to occur. I want everyone to be happy. And, you know, as idealistic as Fuyumi is, I think, yeah, for the sake of their family, I'd be totally okay with everyone being hunky-dory and smiling by the time that the cherry blossoms bloom again. Like, let's start healing stuff up, you know, let's start fixing stuff. I'd be totally okay with that. Like, I don't want the villains to win, man. Like, that's gonna suck. But yeah, anyway, those are my thoughts. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I hope you have an absolutely great day.